For our next speaker, someone who helped Summala with setting up some of our cloud environments. It's Ilja from Cloud. So take it away.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm Ilja Summala. I'm Group CTO of Cloud. I think that I'm going to generally talk about AWS a little bit, and then we will have some kind of demos as well. Just a little bit about Cloud. So we are a large European Amazon system integrator. We are one of the few Amazon Premium partners, and we have offices in Nordics and then London and Munich. We might have one soon in Netherlands, which should be interesting for this audience. And we have done quite many kind of cloud migration projects, automation projects, and so forth. One of the things that I wanted to talk about, which is not really well understood by a lot of the IT community, is that what is Amazon Web Services? Because of course, like Amazon started out as providing, shall I say, minor PaaS services, and then elastic compute service, S3, storage and networking. But that is not actually the what Amazon is all about today, and actually hasn't been about that for, let's say, 5 years. They kind of have now like a 5 billion turnover, which they are investing is to create productivity platforms for various IT use cases. The most obvious one is the developer productivity, because that is how they all started. They have since added data analytics or big data, or how you want to call it, because shall I say, good number of that sort of players that are their biggest customers are also heavy into analytics, like games, media, e-commerce, that sort of things. They are now providing productivity tools for IT in space of security, service catalogs, all kind of things that the shall I say, weren't really addressed that well in the platform, let's say 2 years ago. And now that there's a kind of, shall I say, customers with actual like an enterprise needs, they are trying to kind of very, very quickly provide that. There are still relatively obvious gaps in the offering, but it's getting better all the time. And the other big part is also the mobile. So that is what this kind of service picture looks today. So there is, of course, this kind of infrastructure side, which has data centers in number of locations, like Dublin and Frankfurt. Most people in Europe use the Dublin region because that actually has all the Amazon services. The Frankfurt is the kind of latest addition to the game, and it has some severe limitations on terms of service coverage, and it's not kind of usable for many projects right now because of this. These regions have availability zones, so the Amazon model is that you have kind of one or more buildings in a metropolitan area network within a one, shall I say, region, and then you have like a CDN and DNS points of presence around the world, with number increasing. On top of that, you have, shall I say, the traditional compute, network block storage, object storage, CDN, of course, which is kind of heavily used in the media industry. Then they have a kind of this database service, which is absolutely brilliant service. So you can have a MySQL, Postgres, Oracle, or SQL service, SQL as a kind of service. It's in a kind of world where you need a speed of deployment, the fact that you have somebody managing binaries, snapshots, backups for you, it's quite good. There's also like a NoSQL offering, but it's not so widely deployed as the, shall I say, this relational database service. On the networking side, there is a kind of private network, VPNs, WAN connections, now they announced like flow control data, so it's starting to look more like a traditional IT side of the house. You have the admin and security layer, which the security piece is awesome and it's getting better. So the ability to manage permissions is from these kind of public cloud providers second to none. You can do really granular stuff and control who can do what. You can see all actions in the data center in 15 minutes in a log, who did what, where he did it from, and so forth. So that's quite good. And of course, you have the kind of hourly billing model. The latest addition to the security space is this key management service, which is also like shall I say, addressing the question is that the how do I easily encrypt my databases or things like that, because if I lose the keys somehow, then I'm out of job. But this, shall I say, helps you to do that, and then we're kind of starting now see more adoption for this type of services. And then you have this kind of big data stuff, which includes like a deployment of Hadoop. There's a kind of Kinesis streaming. There's a Redshift data warehouse, and then there's kind of this data pipeline orchestrator. I have to say about these data services that when Amazon creates these services, they are making certain trade-offs in terms of like how to make it simple to use and simple to manage for them. And sometimes these trade-offs are such that it might not be the best fit for organization. And then you can see this for sure in the analytics space, where you really have to look at your use case and whether it fits Amazon pricing model or the deployment model, because it might not actually fit. And if you're better off just using EC2 and install the stuff on your own. On the app services, you have of course like email, search. There's a transcoder service and the workflow engine and so forth. These are used in a various degree of shall I say, proportion of our customers. The email service being one that you actually have to use because everything is spam listed. So if you want to send email out of Amazon, you have to do it. The deployment and management thing, we're gonna kind of touch a little bit more on today, because that is where Amazon has strengths and compared to other public cloud players, and also like on-premise or shall I say legacy private cloud deployments. You have a cloud formation, which we're going to talk about a little bit more. There is a kind of elastic beanstalk, which is a kind of PaaS implementation. They have now introduced something that would act as a kind of Git repository code deployment. There is a implementation of Chef. So you kind of see that Amazon is creating services that are competing with each other actually, and not shall I say, it's not like a question where there's a roadmap that actually is coherent from that perspective, that you have only one product to do one thing. In the deployment space, you see a lot of things that are, shall I say, competing with each other actually. Finally, on the mobile side, there is a ability to run mobile applications without doing all the heavy lifting on the server side in terms of managing notifications, data sync, and authentication. So that, I guess that the point of this picture actually is to kind of see that although the core services are the basis of it, the game is not at the core services. The point here is that as an organization, when you start using Amazon, you have this kind of ever-increasing roadmap of components that could work for you. They sometimes don't, but they could work for you. So when you kind of innovate, you can kind of test things quickly and see if they're going to work out. All in the same sort of management framework in terms of permissioning, logging, APIs, and so forth. So in the media space, which we work a lot, there's kind of few trends. Digitalization is the main one. So I wouldn't call media companies software companies, but software has a kind of larger importance than it had like 15 years ago. And if you are some kind of a software company, then developer productivity is the kind of key of your kind of success. And developer productivity in AWS is really like a biggest driver of adoption in the media space. The second one is this elastic demand, which is quite common for media sites, where there's a little bit of cost optimization to be done by, shall I say, having more servers during the peak hours, and it's easier to respond to peaks. But in many ways, this is not the shall I say, the main thing. The developer productivity is much more important actually. Then analytics is core of the advertisement business. So most media companies are, shall I say, either implementing or considering, adding analytics to improve their, shall I say, ad margins. So that basically, like, shall I say, the overview. And now I want to talk about a little bit like what does it look like in practice, and then we have some sort of demo as well. So this is the kind of the three guys. You could have Puppet there, and you could have any CI tool here, but more or less like a pattern that we see emerging quite a bit. So there is a CI tool that developers work already. The CI tool gets CloudFormation, which is a way of provisioning Amazon infrastructure, load balancers, databases, anything you have there as a service. Not quite everything, because not everything is covered by CloudFormation, but the majority of it. And then they will bootstrap an automation framework like Chef or Puppet and install the software. So that's the, shall I say, dominant model. You could argue that the containerization could have some sort of container framework on the right-hand side, like Elastic Container Service, but shall I say, the gist of it stays the same. The developer interacts with the cloud through the CI tool mainly. The key technology in this is CloudFormation. It's really like this is the thing that is the, shall I say, at the heart of competitive advantage of Amazon, because it's actually so powerful. So basically what you have is that you have kind of JSON describing your infrastructure, virtual machine size, the image to boot it from, its networking configuration, security, that sort of thing. You can then describe all your kind of, shall I say, virtual environment, your load balancers, your database services, anything that is supported by it, and kind of create something called stack, which is the, shall I say, deployment described by the JSON file. And the stack has some primitives like you can update the stack to update a little bit of your infrastructure, for example. It has a really nice feature of when you are developing your automation, it kind of tells you that it didn't work and rolls back the changes. So in a development phase for a sysadmin, this is really nice tool. With this, basically the idea is that this kind of the CI tool launches the described environment, and then kind of you bootstrap the SaKE kind of configuration that you want to be kind of the, shall I say, the end result. And there's a quite a lot of this stuff, but this is what the JSON roughly looks like in terms of like shall I say, logical stuff. So you have a description of this thing. JSON format doesn't have this kind of comments, which is kind of bad. So this description is just about the only thing that the you are able to kind of give as some information for somebody, unless you are doing this with a tool like Troposphere, which is Python tool to generate this stuff. But basically there's a set of parameters you can ask from the user, like if it's a development environment, maybe you ask like what type of a VM you want, or what type of network this has to be in. Then there is a kind of set of resources that get configured. Usually it leverages the parameters, of course, and then there is some degree of outputs that are given from that. It might be the DNS name of the load balancer, or something that the user needs maybe in his next job in Jenkins or otherwise. And that's it. So of course, if this is a load balancer or a EC2 host or S3 bucket, then what's inside there is slightly different, but this is like the main idea. So with this type of shall I say primitives, if you think about it, so you have like an orchestration tool to launch these environments, and you have a scenario where an environment can be described and then bootstrap with a configuration. It is quite common to use kind of AB type of deployment or blue-green deployment, what you want to kind of describe it, where shall I say your process of rolling up those updates is such that you bring like for like copy with the new version of the code, then test it a little bit somehow, and then move the DNS and everything to point to that. And I think that that is what Petri's demo is going to be. So here's a kind of an idea that, okay, you have end users, you have a CDN, you have a DNS of some sort, and you have the CloudFormation stack, which is typically your, shall I say, stateless servers, your web servers, and so forth. You might not want to kind of redeploy your database every time. So you create a new version of the stack on the side, test it, then you start kind of basically pointing the production traffic to that. You kill the old one when you're happy that you don't have to roll back. And the attraction of this approach is that it's very easy for developers to understand. It's easy to roll back. It's not so, shall I say, dependent on the quality of orchestration, because if you think about it like a rolling upgrade, which might be an alternative to this approach, you have a farm of web servers and you upgrade one and then you see if it works and so forth. This is a more like a clean cut approach, all features once you kind of tested it. And the rollback is also a lot simpler, so your orchestration tool has to do less. Yep. Any questions while basically Petri is setting up the demo part? There's a question.
You did talk about anything about Amazon's upcoming container service, but how would you compare it with Kubernetes that was talked about before?
Okay, so I think
Please repeat the question.
yes, so I didn't talk about Elastic Container Service. How do I compare it with Kubernetes? I think basic Docker had few problems. Persistence, the whole networking, persistent disks, networking, and so forth. And shall I say, the end game is such that the Amazon will make a container service to be like a full member of citizenship in Amazon, so that if you think about like what does the strengths of Amazon of being able to do programmatic load balancing, having very nice kind of security group infrastructure and these kind of things. So I think what Amazon is trying to do in the end is that whether you deploy on containers or EC2, it looks much the same. So in comparison to kind of Kubernetes, is a kind of, shall I say, more or less like a platform independent deployment. And I think that the Amazon game will be to kind of make the offering work end to end better with the whole model. They are fundamentally trying to do the same thing now.
Yeah. Should I take the mic?
Please.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Petri Kalberg from same company as Ilja, and I've been also kind of implementing this Summala Cloud for the past year and a half or so. So yeah, what we promised to do of kind of demo what Ilja just described there. So this is starting from Jenkins. So this is the point where you would be after you have built your latest version of your service and package up in something we call here build-to.zip, which is your software. Idea is that you would have this as a next step after you have done your unit testing and whatever you are doing. And once you are happy with your package, you would deploy it to Amazon. Like in every good cooking show, I did some preparations before this to kind of jump over the boring time. So this is how it looked like when I built the version 1. So basically it took a couple of minutes and then this dumped out the parameters that they used for deploying the build 1. And in Amazon terms, let's take a little bit bigger font so we can see something. The deployment looked something like this. So this is the list of all things you had to create for creating a platform similar to Ilja's picture where you had a DNS load balancer, auto-scaling group of servers, and yeah. So there are some, and it does include some monitoring as well for your load balancer, for example, and for auto-scaling to know when you need to add more servers and when you need to decrease the amount of your servers. So it's not it's a kind of basic scenario, but it's not that simple to do manually if you would like to repeat the same process by yourself. It's going to take a little bit of time, and you're going to make some errors quite soon doing that. So one more reason to automate that, and as a result, then you would have your website at called myservice.aws.salmacloud.net, and let's see how we are doing with our build here. This is going to be the number 2. It's not quite ready yet, but it should be soon. So this was kind of the first complaint we got from the development teams once we came up with this process. It's saying that yeah, this is great, but it's taking far too long. It may take a little bit of time, and for your development cycle, I kind of agree it's taking too long, and that's why we built a feature where you can just update your existing infrastructure. So it would be something similar to rolling upgrade. But still, I kind of argue that for production upgrades, you definitely want to do rebuild, because then you would get the benefits of that super simple rollback plan, simply just switching back to your old infrastructure, which you didn't touch during the upgrade. So if it worked before the upgrade, it will work after the upgrade. It stayed exactly the same. No changes done, and it looks like we are about done here. It still says create in progress, but okay, I'm looking at the wrong stack. Let's see. Looks like our Jenkins job was a little bit too eager, saying everything is right. It's still waiting for servers to start apparently, but yeah, like I said, it would be no big deal to replace. Now we are starting a bunch of virtual hosts and installing them with Chef, but you could relatively easily replace those with the containers if you wish. So you can command the containers from the cloud service in the same way as you do for EC2. So oops. As a usual demo effect, it says that yeah, I've created my DNS record, but either it can be the, let's see. No. Let's try to do some refreshing, and that doesn't help. So we have a typical demo effect. It did work when I tried it last time. Straight. Sorry? We started creating several resources, namely the auto-scaling groups, but for some reasons those haven't completed. Load balancer is there, and the okay. Ah, sorry. No. Ah, okay. Now we are moving forward.
So, Petri, while you kind of wait, so
yeah, I think we are done.
okay.
Let's see. Hope for the best. Hello world. Okay, almost done. Looks like my script to start the application didn't work quite as planned. There's still this tag to be replaced, but at least you can see that this is definitely different from the old one where it did. Okay, I just finished this like half an hour before coming here, so probably did some mistakes in a hurry. But now the idea is that you would have infrastructure for two versions of your service running side by side, and you could just say that okay, now just change your DNS records to point to the version you want to direct your end users to, and that's it. It's possible because you are not limited by the physical resources you have there. The only thing to remember now is that once you don't need the old ones, you should remember to delete them, or somebody in your finance department will become very angry at one point. But the upgrade itself, this isn't cost you basically no money. We are doing the same model with the Ilja Sanomat, and I think we are talking about €1 or €2 expense for the upgrade. So it's really a marginal cost if you remember to shut down resources you don't need anymore. Yeah.
What about the speed of setting up new nodes? If I remember correctly, there's some kind of slowness with the existing tools when you pull updates.
Yeah. So how long it takes to start a new VM from scratch in case you need to scale up, for example, or it doesn't really affect you when you are building a new stack. Then you are typically not in a hurry, so it doesn't matter. and if you are in a hurry, you can do in place upgrades. But yeah, we are working on that. There are some challenges there. The question is mainly that how much stuff you want to put into your images and how much stuff you want to install and configure while booting up, and there has to be some balance, because more stuff you put into the images, more images you have had to maintain, because then at one point you need to have different images for different projects. It's possible to do that, but it requires more automation for building those images. So yeah.
I think the first step would be to have just a basic operating system.
Yeah.
Because it's a brand spanking new Linux, and then you can deploy the solution.
Yeah, there's a kind of another problem hidden in that approach. So like Ilja briefly showed that that cloud formation template. One thing you have in the template is the name of the image, and we could do so that we would build a new base image every night, and that would keep it up to date. But then somebody would need to update all the templates with the new image names, and the missing piece here is that kind of meta name for the images. So you could say that give me the latest and greatest image of the day, and this is something we are currently working on as well. Could be in quite near future. Now we are heading for the summer vacation, but maybe even before that. Let's see. It's been in plan. Yeah. Yeah. At the moment, we have chosen to support only Linux and Ubuntu in case of Summala Cloud. There's really no reason why it couldn't be any other operating system, but the problem is that the chef recipes we are using to install the software and configure the servers, I wouldn't guarantee that all of them would work on BSD, for example, and it would need, I would guess it would need a serious amount of work on getting everything working in BSD. So it's a matter of support resources, how much we have resources to support different OS. Sorry? Yeah. Once again, this is kind of a little bit experimental feature. So how much you right now the model is that we try to keep it as easy as possible for devs, and also kind of focusing the fact that we would like to have as similar deployments as possible. So we made a bunch of cookbooks, and currently writing your own cookbook code is not very simple, but you can configure the existing cookbooks. That's something you can do pretty easily, and it will also keep the deployments looking like each other, which makes the support a little bit easier for the stuff. So trying to aim as uniform as possible model for all the services. It's kind of trade-off there, but hopefully we are getting it about right. Yeah.
Okay. Other questions can be asked over drinks, because we now have a 5-minute break. So I'll be back at 4. 5 here. 4 in.